Now, I invite our esteemed guest of honor, Dr. Jamshed Bharucha. He is a cognitive neuroscientist who has served in leadership roles in higher education. He is the founding Vice Chancellor of Sai University, Chennai, and is a member of the Board of Advisors in India's international movement to unite nations. His research is in cognitive psychology and neuroscience, focusing on the cognitive and neural basis of the perception of music. He was the editor of the interdisciplinary journal Music Perception. As an academic administrator, he launched initiatives on teaching and research, as well as their integration in the form of active learning, encouraging undergraduates to get involved in research with their professors. Let's hear his insights and inspirations as we embark on this special journey together.
Thank you for that warm welcome. I would like to thank the distinguished founder and chairman of this incredible institution, our correspondent, ma'am, and the principal, ma'am, and vice principal, and our chief guest, who I can see why he's so good at what he does. He was an inspiration. Now, I have to confess, I didn't understand every word because I'm still learning my Tamil, if you'll excuse me, but I could more or less figure out what he was saying. And I'm very delighted to be represented in the state legislature by somebody of your vision. So thank you. I want to thank the parents out there. Parenting is not easy, is it? But it is one of the most important things one can do to raise a child. I want to thank the teachers. Teaching is the most noble of professions. Without peer. We all talk about wanting our children to become doctors and engineers and so on, and of course we need doctors and engineers and others. But we need to talk more about the teachers. The impact that a teacher has, not just on the life of the child, the intellectual, emotional, social development of the child, but on generations beyond that, because the child will pass on that legacy. I want you all, the parents and the leadership, to join me in thanking the practitioners of a profession who get very little thanks in society, to thank the teachers of our children. I don't know where they are, but we saw some of them getting prizes. But let's not forget the children. Too often in education, and my experience has been mostly in higher education, university level education, those of us who get into the administrative and management side of it forget why we are there. You come in the morning and this has to be done and that has to be done and something else has to be done. And when I hire professors and faculty and staff in any aspect of the university, I say to them, every morning when you come in, no matter how urgent the task you think you have to do, remember why we are here. We are here to educate the children. Now, what does that mean, to educate children? Knowledge, I think, as our distinguished chief guest mentioned, is at our fingertips with the internet, right? There was a time when education was about imparting knowledge, but it's all here. Okay? It's all here. But there's more there than just good knowledge. There's a lot of noise. And so our task as teachers, professors, educators has to be completely rethought if we are to clear the path for our children to take our place. The future belongs to them. And my field of study is cognitive neuroscience, how the brain works, how the mind works, how we think, how we remember, how we use language, how we perceive the world, how we reason, how we think logically or not logically. And there's thousands and thousands of research papers on the development of a child. One thing I'd like to leave you with is distilling the thousands and thousands of research articles into one truth that emerges from them. The first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of life are the most critical. The most critical. Unfortunately, by the time they come to me in a university, most of the cake has been baked. It's very difficult. And so I think it is an incredible social contribution, societal contribution that you, sir, and your wife and others have started this institution, and that this event focuses on the youngest because it's for them that the education has the maximum impact. Now, one aspect of this that comes from the research is in the traditional ways of teaching, we have tended to underestimate the child. And I'm just as guilty as anybody. We have tended to talk down to the child. We have tended to lecture and lecture and lecture. The research, the beauty of scientific research is sometimes it tells you things that are completely against what you have done before. The research suggests we as the grown-ups should lecture less to the children, no matter how small, and listen more. The child's brain is an astonishing organ. It is fertile in a way in which, I'm sorry to say, none of the brains of us grown-ups who believe we are wiser are. So this one kernel of truth from years and years of research on child development is that the best predictor of success of a child is how much time in the first 5 years of life, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, before they become adolescents when everything else changes. How much time of their early life have they spent being engaged by adults who treat them as being a little bit older than they are, who treat them with respect, who listen to them, who do not talk down to them. It's astonishing. I would not have known that But that comes out of the research. And I'll just leave you with an example that would be familiar to all parents and teachers. A child goes through a period when you say something and the child says, "Why?" And you give some answer. And they says, "But why?" And then you give another answer and say, but why?" Now, I suspect most of us are guilty when that happens of becoming exasperated and saying, "Because I told you so. Just be quiet, sit in the corner. I have more important things to do." If I would leave teachers and parents with one thing that is basically the result of empirical scientific research, there's nothing more important that you could have to do than to continue responding respectfully and authentically to the child. The brain has evolved over hundreds of millions of years to learn through exploration. Children poke and they put things in their mouth but asking questions, no matter how silly they seem to us adults, no matter how irrelevant they seem, when we have somewhere to go and something important to do, is the most potent form of learning. It's not what they acquire when we lecture in a classroom. It's what they learn from exploring the world, testing the world, and our role as teachers and educators is to guide them, to provide them with the feedback based on their own exploration. When a child continues this cycle of asking why, and then you give an example, I'll take my own son. I vowed if I ever had a child, I would never lose my patience when they go through the stage of asking why. Now, sometimes, of course, they're testing you. They're trying to, but you should allow the child to become exhausted before you become exhausted. Okay? And we were taking a walk. He was probably 4 years old. And he would ask questions about plants and, why does this fall? And I said, well, there's gravity. Well, what is gravity? And then I tried to come up with something. And he said, but why? But why do objects attract each other? And I tried to come up with something. Yeah, but why that? What I realized is, because I happen to be interested in physics, the physicists don't know the answer. Gravity remains a tremendous mystery, why objects. And here was a child who had actually discovered, just by asking questions, that how little we actually know about this. So let me just leave you with, we all want to listen to and watch the children perform. It's their future, and by the way, it's pretty clear their future is going to be completely different from our past. Please do not ever squelch their imagination, their creativity. Children come up with all kinds of things that sound silly. They don't have a clear boundary between imagination and reality. But guess what? As our distinguished MLA said, when new ideas, new innovations, new inventions come along, most people don't think they're worth anything. If we reward our children for coming up with the silliest ideas, for inventing, for creating, for imagining, they'll get into that habit. They'll become the innovators. They'll become the people who create a vibrant economy for the world in the future. So thank you all very much.
Thank you once again, sir, for your inspiring words. Your wisdom and guidance continue to uplift and motivate us.